See different cultures, yeah, and on my team I had Canadian teammates that had teammates from Europe, so I kind of had the experience of them.
All right, can I jump in? So again, freestyle, throw out answers. What do you think is maybe useful about the model and what might be limited? This is from like 1952, I think, so just be aware of that. I forgot to mention that this only tracks change over time, right? So usually it's in months, right? So over 9 months, this is what happens to an international student.
I think you get culture shock as you land.
Exactly. That's it.
Okay.
That's good.
I think that.
So you're starting here or here? There's no honeymoon.
No, I'm thinking back when I was much younger,
Right.
at 18, and I landed in England.
Right.
And I went to a hall of residence, and there was no heat. And I went downstairs, and I said, there's no heat. And the guy said, well, autumn hasn't started. And I was like, what is wrong with that? It's cold, right?
Right.
It was cold.
Yeah, so there's that expectation,
They
right?
don't put it until October, so I go to the illegal time.
Excellent.
Yeah. And you hide it when the person comes to clean you.
Is this like a heater on the floor like this?
It's a fancy place, it's illegal because they have bad, it was an old hall of residence,
Right.
So they had bad electrical.
Okay.
Every international student who was not accustomed to damp old, right, would buy their own fan heaters.
Right. Do be careful with those here, because if you have them on the floor, right, they can be a fire hazard.
Yeah, but they're not going to heat.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you're on campus, the thing to think about is layering rather than getting a really heavy coat and just having one t-shirt or shirt underneath, right? Because as you come in, you're going to be boiling, right? It's a lot of contrast, extremities. Yeah, so whether, but to go back to your earlier point, you were saying that how it might start off at that point, right? Yeah.
There's no honeymoon, because when I went to college, and I was from a very conservative home in Trinidad, and I heard these guys talking, and they were cussing every second word. I had such a blankety-blank, great blankety-blank time last night. I got blankety-blank drunk, and I blankety-blank threw up. And I was like, how could it be fun to throw up? How could it be fun to drink yourself sick? How could it be fun to be cussing all the time, every second word? And, it was a culture shock that happened within the first couple of days of landing in England. For me.
England has bad weather too, right?
Well, the weather you get
The
used
weather
to.
is good.
No, you get used to it, right? You get your umbrellas.
Yeah,
You get the cold. You learn how to cope and find like-minded people who complain about the weather.
Right. So what's really interesting is if you do take our intercultural workshop eventually in some capacity during the year, we often talk about culture as like the visible manifestation of culture. So we see the way people behave, right? So that anecdote about hearing people talk about their rowdy drunken night, right? And it's sort of what is the norm, value, belief behind that, right? So some people might come to a higher institution to party a little bit, right? In undergrad, at least. You guys seem to be in a different state, right? But I'm just interested, did anyone start off in the honeymoon period? Yeah?
I mean, I don't come from the States, but I did my undergraduate education in the States. And so, well, not only the stereotype that they have, Canadians, but just how they treat foreigners, how some Americans treat foreigners, was, it sort of prepared me before coming here, set me in this mindset that things here are going to be better, just the interactions, the day-to-day interactions with Canadians. And I must say, like, even from the very first day, when we crossed the border and the immigration officers, it was a completely different experience from any airport I've ever been in the United States.
Right.
And so far, I mean, it's held up that just interactions can be nicer. I mean, yes, sometimes people in the city are busy and they want to go on with their day, but it hasn't been really sometimes as, like, bad as it can get. Or I must have been in an angry city in the United States too. I don't know, but
Right.
so far I'm still enjoying it.
For you, like Canadian, the generalization that Canadians are polite, right? The border agent, welcome to Canada, right? That rang true for you in your experience, right? So we're all going to be coming in at different various points. So I think it is a useful model in some ways to think about how it's going to take time to adjust. But one thing we'd like to talk about is, roles, responsibilities, routines. You can see a pattern here, right? Alliteration, reflections, right? All these things are going to be in flux. So you might be great in one respect, right? You might know your roles really well. What are the expectations of you? But then how you think about yourself, right? And sort of, did I handle that situation right? Was there a faux pas made? Did I say the right thing or the wrong thing, right? That might be a little bit more keeping you up at night, right? Or maybe you have routines that served you really well in your previous academic institution or in your previous job, and they're going to be disrupted here in some way, right? Whether it's like the timing of classes, or if you're a commuter student, right? You're going to have to repurpose that time for studying or sleeping or relaxing or whatnot, right? Yeah.
One of the other things, and I don't know if I speak for I feel like there's a fair number of us who are coming from the States to study here. I, for one, am working on being on my best behavior. Like, I worked in tourism before. We're supposed to be polite, but Americans have an admittedly deserved reputation for being a bit aggressive and coarse. And coming here, I joked to one of my friends, since I'm from a very small, conservative, rural state, it's weird because no one's packing heat. Like, this is the first time in my life I've gone a whole day without seeing someone with a firearm who's not a police officer.
Right.
And so I didn't come from that culture. Like, I was from the city there, and that wasn't as common of a thing. But coming here feeling like I have to be on my best behavior, I have to be an ambassador for my culture and be like, not all Americans are giant dickwads.
Just to jump on that, did anyone hear the air show happening over the weekend or see it? Right. So how did that feel for many of you? As a Torontonian, it happens every year, and I find it really annoying. So I just try to play music or drown it out. But how did the rest of you feel?
I live next to an Air Force base. I didn't care.
Okay, so for you, right, that routine is very familiar, right? For some of you who come from an environment where that doesn't happen, was it really unsettling? Upsetting?
Well, once I found out what it was, and
Yeah.
that we weren't under attack, because I was like, their information, is this good? I don't know what's happening. And
Right.
someone explained that there was an air show,
Right.
and it would go on for a couple of days, and it was to do with the CNE.
Yeah.
And then that started to make sense, but
Right.
until I found out that it was planned,
Right.
I was a bit like, what's going on?
Yeah. Last year I was talking to a Syrian student who had very mixed feelings about it. She said, I understand that this is a cultural event and many Canadians participate in this, right? It's a show of patriotism, but she said for her it really brought up negative memories, right? So that's just an extreme example, right? But it is sort of like you're going to notice things that, this is slightly different. Like even when you think that US and Canada, very, very similar in terms of culture, right? Like, they don't have guns walking around, right? Forgot what my next point was. But talking about all these considerations, hopefully yesterday I sold you on the idea that the CIE, where I work, can attend to all of these concerns, right? So if you ever want to talk something out, whether it's a practical issue like income tax return forms, which are really tricky to navigate, or something that you think is cultural. Maybe it's not, but I'm happy to talk with you about what's going on, right? I'm glad you brought up accent, because this is something that comes up a lot in my advising. A lot of students come to me saying that their English is bad, right? Their accent is really, really strong. And I want to just suggest to you that we are all embedded in our own cultural location. We all have our own accents, right? Determined by our L1, our first language. So I don't want to be all Pollyanna-esque, and like celebratory multiculturalism, that your accents are wonderful and the way you communicate, it's fine, but when you join the job market, you might find that, okay, how am I going to present my name on a resume, right? A couple of years ago, there was a study how a lot of students were anglicizing their names because they'd get better return, right, on a job application. So I don't want to pretend, right, that there aren't barriers, but I want to sort of suggest to you that you bring an experience that is valuable, right, and that's why you're here. And if you want to think through about, communicability or different communication styles, right, that's something that we really try to work with students on. Right? So if you are an indirect communicator and you are asked to be direct in your professional environment, right? Like we can talk about that. Or we also talk about how emotionally restrained or how emotionally expressive you are when you communicate. How much is too much? Is my tone really too loud? Is that setting people off? Those are the things and the self-reflection I was talking about that takes a little bit of maybe support and advising and maybe a bit of coaching too. And like I said, if I can't help you with any of these, I'm happy to refer you to someone who can on the campus. This is such a big university, right? There's an office for everything. And I really do referrals thoughtfully, at least I try to, right? So if I'm sending you off to another department, it is very much respecting your privacy and respecting whatever you come to me with in terms of if it's a confidential issue or something that you don't want publicly, acknowledged. That is something that we really try to endeavor to do as advisors here at U of T. So I'm just conscious of time. We're at 10:10. Are they off to another session after this? Okay. Any questions? So yesterday was more about program services. Today was more about what you're going to be experiencing, right? And just like I said, be kind to yourself, right? It takes time to adjust. Yeah.
I noticed on the library job postings for high school students that it said that it prioritized Canadian candidates. I was wondering if that was a common thing or if it's some kind of government policy that all jobs prioritize Canadian candidates, or if it was just that's an exception at a school library or.
Seems like an exception. It might be because of the funding, right? So if they're getting certain money from the federal government, and then it might be you have to prioritize Canadian candidates. But it is rare. Like for the most part, job postings don't have that consideration unless there is sort of something behind it. All right. So thank you so much for listening to me again, second day in a row. That's my email address. Feel free to email me if you have any questions, right? A lot of them can be answered over email, but if you hang out at Grad Room or School of Graduate Studies, the lounge there, you might see me holding office hours, so feel free to drop in, even if you don't have an appointment. And have a great year.